Why are farmers suddenly concerned about who the city of Seattle just hired to be the new CEO of its public utility? Well, it turns out the new guy, whose name is Dennis McLerran, isn't new at all and is especially known to the farming community of Washington State, and not in a good way. I'm Dylan Honkoop with Save Family Farming. So abruptly, the city of Seattle fires its previous CEO for City Light, Seattle City Light, the public utility that provides power to Seattle. They get it from the Skagit Valley. We'll get back to that in just a moment and the nexus that has with farming in Western Washington. But the person that they replaced the former CEO with is a guy by the name of Dennis McLerran, who has a long history as an environmental attorney in Washington State and someone who the farming community does not trust here in Washington, particularly because of his involvement in a couple of very shady situations that harmed farming in Washington State, including what was known as the What's Upstream campaign, a lobbying campaign that used public dollars via the EPA, taxpayer dollars, to try to convince the public that the farming community was polluting waterways in Washington State. It was something that they were doing, trying to push future legislation to force more regulations and stream buffers on the farming community. It's an issue we've talked about here before, but it was something that ultimately resulted in 143 members of the United States Congress writing a letter condemning because of its abuse of taxpayer funds for political purposes. Dennis McLerran was involved in that, as his job at the time was head of EPA Region 10, the Seattle office of the EPA. Also in his time there, he was behind the beginning of the onslaught against farmers in the lower Yakima Valley. 4 dairy farms have been sued over cooked up science that we've proven was falsified. And they continue to be sued, continue to be pushed out of business. 3 of the 4 farms are now out of business. Only 1 remains. Yet the EPA's litigation continues, again, all based on false science. Dennis McLerran was connected with that as well, and other things that have caused lost trust with him in the farming community. So fast forward to now. Why does it matter who's the head of Seattle City Light? Seattle City Light gets its power, at least a good portion of it, from the Skagit Valley, from the Skagit River, where it has dams upriver of the valley. They're trying to get those dams relicensed, to get the feds to say they can continue operating them for another 50 years. But those dams lack fish passage, a key thing that almost any other dam in our entire region already has to protect fish. It would be very expensive, and it appears that Seattle City Light doesn't want to have to pay for that. So their game plan has been buying up farmland and building other fish habitat, taking land out of farming and providing dubious, questionable benefits for salmon, if any at all, instead of doing this expensive thing on their dams. Is this the continued play? And is this what Dennis McLerran has been hired to do? They tell us he's someone who's going to bring the community together. And the farming community is skeptical because what they've seen in the past is tearing communities apart. So we're going to be watching Dennis McLerran, the new CEO of Seattle City Light, very closely as this deal is finalized for the future of the Skagit Valley. I'm Dylan Honkoop, and that's the Save Family Farming Hot Take of the Week.